I'll tell them I pray for them, and I'll tell them I pray for their safety and be safe out there. And I'll talk with them about have you had any rough issues today?
Yeah.
And they'll share a little bit of what's happened in their day. I think all that kind of stuff is just a way to help build a decent relationship with them.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah.
Recognize they're not just some governmental entity,
Right.
but they're human beings.
I am yours, I am yours, I am yours, send me, Lord. I am yours, I am yours, I am yours.
Welcome to the Gospel Centered Pro-Life Podcast, a podcast designed to equip, encourage, and challenge you in pro-life ministry, and always with a focus on the gospel. Stay tuned.
I felt your passion, I've touched your heart.
Welcome to the Gospel Centered Pro-Life Podcast. Daniel and
Yes.
I have this ongoing joke that we've been doing this, 3 years, Daniel?
Yeah, almost 3 years.
Almost 3 years.
maybe a little
And
more.
I still stumble over the title. I don't know what it is. Daniel can't spell, and I can't remember the title of our 3-year podcast.
Yeah, we all have our flaws.
We all have
as
our
perfect
flaws.
as Vicky is,
Yeah.
she still cannot remember the name of the
Right,
podcast
but
that she
anyway,
does.
it is our podcast.
It is?
And I'm Vicky Kaziorg.
Are you
I do
sure?
remember my name.
Okay, that's good.
And I'm here with Daniel Parks. And this is a podcast that we actually had thought we've done. We've probably touched on this topic.
It's one of our training components. When we do our
It is.
trainings, we talk
Right.
about how to deal with the police. That's the subject of this podcast.
Right.
But
right.
yeah, I can't believe actually we went through our whole list of podcasts because I
Yeah.
could have sworn that we did an episode about this.
Yeah.
But if we did, it's lost somewhere in the ether.
Yeah.
And maybe it got sucked into a black hole or something
And it's
like
important.
that.
It's
Yeah.
an important topic. Well, how do you deal with the police? Because you will.
Yeah,
If you're
yeah.
on the sidewalk, you better know how to deal with the police. So,
Right.
So that, and in fact, I think I wrote it following an incident where someone was spit upon. I believe that was what happened.
Spat upon.
Spit upon. I'm not sure what.
And you talk about me not knowing how to spell.
Anyway.
You literally write books and you don't know what that is.
It was disgusting. I want you to know it was
All right.
disgusting. And the counselor said, should I press charges? And I was like, yes.
Of course.
Of course you should press charges. This is assault. And
Yeah.
I thought, we all need to be on the same page about, when you press charges, what is assault, all of that, and how to develop
Yeah.
a relationship with the police.
Yeah.
So.
Like you said, if you're out there doing ministry on any kind of a regular basis, it's inevitable.
Right.
The police are going to get called or
Yeah.
you're going to have to call the police. Either they're going to
Yeah.
get called on you or you're going to have to call them on someone or both. I mean, there's a lot of scenarios where the police are involved in the situation.
Right.
This is not for you guys to be afraid, so don't be afraid. We don't walk in fear, we walk in faith. But it's a reality. We're confronting the number one moral evil, number one moral issue of our day at these places where it's happening by sometimes in some cities hundreds per week, right?
Right. Yeah.
Their babies are dying. And so
Yeah.
you're going to have opposition. What we're doing by its very nature, no matter how nice and sweet you are, what you're doing by its very nature is confrontational. You are confronting the powers of darkness, and there's going to be some pushback. It's either going to be from people, going into the abortion center, people driving by, or sometimes it's from the police. Sometimes the police can cause issues. So we're going to talk about how to deal with them. And one of the first points, you have an article, like you always do, Vicky. This article, you guys can get it on sidewalksforlife.com, sidewalks the number 4, life.com. Tab at the top that says equipping articles, and this article will be there for you guys to read over and encourage you guys to do that. But the first subheading that you have in this article is how we build a good relationship with the police.
Because it is important. You do if you can.
Yeah,
It's
absolutely.
really good to have a good relationship with them.
Yeah, because when they show up, if they're favorable to you, not necessarily they're going to take your side, but at least they're not going to be hostile to you.
Yeah.
There's an opportunity to talk things through, whatever the situation might be, whether you've been assaulted or you're trying to press charges on someone or someone's trying to get you in trouble. It's good if you have that good working relationship with the police. And so the first thing I would say when you encounter the police, to build a good relationship with them, be respectful. Even if they're there for some frivolous thing, Even if the clinic, let's say the clinic always calls the police on you because you're, quote, blocking the driveway, and you're not doing that, of course,
Right.
because you guys would never do that.
Right.
Even if you're aggravated by the fact that the police are there, don't be aggravated with the police. Be respectful. Be kind to them.
Mm-hmm.
If they give you directives that are not trampling on your rights, just say, yes, sir, and move on.
Yeah.
If they tell you, don't stand in the middle of the driveway or whatever, then don't stand in the middle of the driveway.
Yeah.
If they tell you, don't give out brochures, then you can respectfully say, well, officer, I do have a right, a freedom of speech to hand out these brochures. So I'm going to continue to do this because I know that I can't. So if they're telling you things that you know that you can do and not to do those things, then you do need to graciously and respectfully push back. But for the most part, they're not going to do that. And, you know, I think another way, I don't know if you have this in the article, but a good way to build a relationship with the police is to go and meet them ahead of time. Like before they're even called on you.
Yeah.
It's a good idea to go to the local precinct and just introduce yourself.
Yeah.
Maybe, you know, if you're a part of Love Life, and the vast majority of people listening to this podcast are, but if you're not, that's fine too. But if you're part of Love Life, you'll have our Sidewalk Outreach Code of Conduct. I think it's a good idea to go and bring them that code of conduct and say, here's, you know, my name is, whatever your name is, and I serve under Love Life, and just wanted you guys to know what we're doing out on the sidewalk here at the abortion center. And this is our code of conduct that we operate under, just so they know that you're legit. You're not some crazies out there. And that could serve to really build a good relationship.
I think that's a great suggestion.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we've been out here a long time. We probably couldn't do that now. but,
Well, I mean,
but it's a good suggestion.
Strangely enough, the police here in Charlotte, in the South, in the Bible Belt, are a lot more hostile to us than the police in Southern California are.
I've heard that a lot, and
Yeah.
that is unusual.
Yeah.
It
Well,
is
it's the city
surprising.
council. It's we have a pro-abortion group here that has an in with the city council and those in city
Yeah.
government.
Yeah.
And so I think it has something to do with that.
Yeah.
And there's one knucklehead police officer in particular who's in charge of things who doesn't necessarily like us.
Yeah.
And so that's caused some issues. But I think we've done the best we can to be respectful, to do what we can to build the bridge.
Yeah.
And it's on them.
Yeah, I'll tell them I pray for them, and I'll tell them I pray for their safety and be safe out there, and I'll talk with them about have you had any rough issues today,
Yeah.
and they'll share a little bit of what's happened in their day. I think all that kind of stuff is just a way to help build a decent relationship with them.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah.
Recognize they're not just some governmental entity,
Right.
but they're human beings.
Yeah.
And so asking them about their day, I mean, I have a good relationship with some of the officers out here. For the most part, just the kind of, I don't know, just common police officers out here. I don't know what their ranks are and all that stuff.
Right.
They're nice people. They like us. I've been encouraged by some of them. I've had some of them come over and talk about like they like what we do.
Yeah.
But when you get in the higher ups, sometimes if they're hostile, it kind of muddies the waters, and so that's
does.
some of what we've dealt with here. But I would say for you guys in other cities, and we're still trying to build that bridge, and we still are. I mean, I think we've done a good job here,
Yeah.
and as much as we can. But going out of your way to thank these police officers, I do think what you mentioned, praying with them. I mean, I've had situations where in Southern California, been on the scene when our team is praying for a police officer because the Planned Parenthood called the police on them. They came, they found obviously we're not doing what Planned Parenthood said we were doing. We're not blocking anything. We're doing what we're supposed to be. And just asked if we can pray with the officer. We've done that a couple of times across the nation in cities where I've been. And it goes a long way.
Yeah.
Like just letting them know that we appreciate what they're doing, the sacrifices that they make.
Yeah, that's good.
And we add it to our prayer walks, actually, in kind of the order of service of the things that we pray for. In many of our cities, one of those things is praying for the police officers.
That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think all of that goes to building a good relationship.
Yeah.
So the next title you have here, subheading, is When to Call the Police.
Right.
And so, give me a little kind of your take on when you think it's appropriate to
I
call
will
them.
tell you, first of all, be careful not to have it be over frivolous things because they do get annoyed. I would get annoyed. I don't want my taxpayer money going for them running out for every little thing that the opposition says that I find annoying or whatever.
Right.
So be very careful what you call them on. But you definitely should always call them without exception if there is any aggression or touch at all.
Yeah.
Unless I suppose there is a little discretion. If there's someone is walking by you and it's clearly they just tripped or something and bumped into you, I would not call them on that. But if the opposition is pushing at your signs or touching you or shoving you out of the way, poking their umbrella at you. We had that happen recently where one poked her umbrella tip through the fence at one of our counselors' face, and literally the umbrella tip went into her eye, but she was wearing sunglasses.
Yeah.
Knocked the sunglasses off, but that person didn't even know that we were this. Our counselor was wearing sunglasses. She could have literally poked her eye out.
Yeah.
We called the police on that. So any aggression, without a doubt,
Yeah.
I would call the police. And other than that, I probably, obviously, if I ever saw a gun, I would call the police.
Yeah. Yeah.
Any
Absolutely.
weapon. And if at any point I felt threatened, if I heard a threat, I would probably call the police
Yeah.
on that.
Yeah, definitely. And so the next thing is, so if you feel threatened,
Yeah.
or you've been assaulted, or anything kind of goes beyond the above the norm as far as aggression is concerned, that when there's aggression, that doesn't just mean that somebody's yelling at you, but somebody's like threatening you or
Yeah.
shoving or whatever.
Yeah,
Definitely.
any physical altercation for sure.
Yeah,
you
spitting on
need-
you. Like,
spitting
that is assault.
definitely assault and
Yeah.
and you need to call the police.
So the next thing is when to press charges.
Right.
And what I will say is you always need to press charges. If someone assaults you, if someone spits on you, if someone, we had a situation at one of our teams here in North Carolina where the pro boards came and took their signs. They had their signs,
Right.
and the pro boards
Yeah.
just came and took them and tore them up and threw them in the trash. I think
That
is the
happened
thing.
again this week. Which if you don't press charges, that's what happens. It escalates.
Yeah. If you give these people an inch, especially there's a little bit of a different way that you handle people that are out there on a regular basis. So like pro-abortion people or workers at the abortion center, in kind of in contrast to people who are just who are patients or friends of patients. These are people you're not going to see probably ever again, right?
Them I would worry less about.
Yeah. You still want to press charges, but I'm saying if you give the pro-abortion people or people that work at the abortion center, security guards that work there or whatever, if you give them an inch, they're going to take a mile. So this week, they might be pushing you. Next week, they'll be slapping you. The next week, they'll be punching you.
Yeah.
You just want to make sure and hold them accountable. We're not talking about, getting back at them. We're not talking about, making them pay. I mean, in a sense we are, but we don't have bitterness. We know that they're blind, they're dead in their trespasses and sins. We can be forgiving and we can be kind toward them, even if they're mean and nasty toward us. We still should be kind and loving toward them, but we need to hold them accountable.
Yeah.
And that accountability is not just for your own safety, but let's say, they did assault you and you want to be kind and turn the other cheek, and we should turn the other cheek as far as forgiving in our heart. But that next week you're not out there and someone else is, and they suffer the wrath that could have been thwarted because if you would have pressed charges, it would have been thwarted, right? Because you didn't do your duty and press charges and carried it through. Someone else is going to suffer.
Right. So you could put your teammates in jeopardy if you're not doing, not only pressing charges, but follow through. You follow through. It's a pain in the neck. I've done it.
Yeah.
Here, I think it's different in every city, but here we have to go to the magistrate with a law and fill out a long, long report.
Yeah.
Show any evidence we might have it. And it's not easy parking. You have to pay for the parking.
Yeah.
So it is a hassle, but you need to do it.
Yeah.
It's important
so let me
to do
just walk through this scenario then. I'll use the example of the lady that you mentioned. They almost got her eye poked out, right? This pro-abort poked through the fence with her umbrella and knocked the girl's glasses off.
Right.
She called the police, or I believe the police were right there on site.
There, and fortunately, they actually even saw it.
Yeah. So they come over and they're asking, what went on here, or at least maybe they saw what went on there. And they pretty much just cataloged that as, this is a bad situation. What needed to happen and what did happen is, well, officer, it's a bad situation for sure, but I want to press charges.
Right.
And sometimes you have to say that. Now, for some police officers, they already know, especially if they see an assault, I mean, it's their duty to actually press charges, to actually deal with the issue. But in some cities like Charlotte, where our police officers are a little more antagonistic and less inclined to take action on our behalf, you've got to press them.
Yeah.
And so, a similar scenario, someone, down in Southern California, a lady punched a sidewalk counselor.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah. And knocked her down. And so they called the police. The police showed up. They show up. What do you want to be done? Well, I want you to track this person down. Here's their license plate. And I want you to track them down. I want to press charges against them. The police had to be told that they want to press charges. I mean,
well, now I have a question for you because I'm not quite sure of the answer of it, but it has been asked of me before. Not only do I sometimes feel we need to press charges, but I want to take it to the level where I'll say, I want you to arrest them.
Yeah.
This was an assault.
Right.
I think they should be arrested.
Yeah.
And I believe that is what we asked in the case of our counselor with the sunglasses. And they said, if I'm remembering correctly, that it was not a felony assault. And so they did not have to arrest
yeah.
on the spot.
Right. They could have, but they didn't have to. And that's the thing. You sometimes have to graciously demand that they do what they're supposed to do, right? Because they want, especially in this scenario, some police officers kind of see it as, well, you put yourself in harm's way by coming out here. So
They've
it's your
actually
fault.
said that to me.
Yeah.
They said you could just go home.
Yeah, right. Which is, ridiculous, right? But most police officers aren't going to take that position. Mm-hmm. But I'll tell you this, there is a lot of paperwork that can go along with an assault or something like that. Mm-hmm. And the way the court systems are right now, they're stacked with all kinds of cases, and police officers have all kinds of cases that are backlogged that they're going to have to show up to court, because when they fill out a report and they press charges, go through with pressing charges, arrest someone, they have to show up to court for that incident, right? So they're going to try not to do that. And as much as they can, they're going to try to get out of, some of them are going to try to get out of pressing charges. They're going to try to get out of doing all that paperwork. If you'll just let it go, then for them, they just write it down as an incident, but they don't have to go through with the whole process, right?
Yeah.
Submitting paperwork to the court system and all that stuff. So some police officers would just rather not do that and just wait for you to tell them that I want to press charges.
Yeah.
And so if they're not ready, if they don't have their pen out ready to write a citation, ready to make the arrest or whatever, then don't feel bad about pressing them to go through with pressing charges and arresting the person. Right.
And another thing that I don't even know if it's in this article, but if you don't have evidence, sometimes you might be hesitant to call the police, but we're telling you should.
Yeah.
Even if you don't have video evidence, photographic evidence, whatever, they usually don't consider, at least here in Charlotte, they don't care that we have 10 witnesses of other counselors.
Right.
They don't count that, I guess. Yeah. But you still press charges because then you've got the beginning of a record, a paper trail. Should it happen again, that person has already kind of been flagged by the system, and that's really valuable.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Having your witnesses too, like if it does ultimately go to court, that will help in the courtroom in that scenario.
That's true. And so I don't even know if I put this in the article, but we have an incident report form that we have our counselors fill out because it's so easy to forget.
Right.
All of the details, especially by the time it goes to trial.
Yeah.
So to have it all written down with all the witnesses, names, addresses, phone numbers, you'll need that for the magistrate.
Yeah.
If you're going to press charges. So having every city have a form like that ready to go for the counselor to fill out is a really important
and that's
step.
Something I would be more than happy to share with the folks who are listening who are part of a Love Life City. It's just a Google form, pretty simple.
Yeah.
But I'd be more than willing to share, so reach out to me, Daniel@lovelife.org, if you want to get that and you're part of Love Life.
Yeah.
So the next thing that you have as a subheading here is, what if the police seem antagonistic? So talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. the problem there is you're walking the line of you don't want to make them angry with you because they are hopefully going to help you.
Yeah.
But if they seem antagonistic, you've got to understand that some people just really hate us. They hate what we do. That includes police officers. They are not going to be nice to us. They are going to be hostile.
Yeah.
You can't control that. You really cannot. But what you can control is your behavior.
Right.
And so I will never forget the video of some of the founders of Cities for Life being arrested, and they were just so noble. They were so respectful and gentle and kind, and even thanked the officer as they're handcuffing him, thanked the officer for his service to the community.
Yeah.
Even though
this is the
this
situation
was incorrect.
this is the situation when because of the stay-at-home order, because of COVID,
Right.
we weren't the abortion clinic could be open, but it was illegal for us to be out in front of the abortion
So
center
they
praying.
said.
Right.
So they said. Right.
Now, ultimately, it was found that we were in the right. They were in the wrong, but they literally arrested several people out in front of the abortion center, including the guy that founded David Benham, the guy that founded
Correct.
Cities for Life, and then some folks that were part of the leadership team on Love Life.
Right.
And they were absolutely in the wrong, but yet still there was this respectability and this attitude of thankfulness toward for their service toward the officers, and it was obvious
and that
we were
made
being respectful. Yeah.
It was, and it made such an impact on me.
Yeah.
But it made an impact on the community. As I recall, donations skyrocketed, which
Yeah.
was not at all the intention.
Yeah.
But when people see people respectfully and boldly but kindly standing for their rights, and basically the Bible says that how are we to treat our enemies and our captors? It's to be with the love of the Lord, and that's what I saw.
Yeah.
And that can go a long way, and I think
Yeah.
it probably went a long way in some of those policemen's and policewomen's hearts as well.
I'll say that they definitely saw the contrast
Yes.
when the Black Lives Matter riots and protests and stuff broke out and the arrests
Right.
that took place there.
Right.
Promise you, those people weren't as respectful
Right.
as the people that, the Christians they arrested praying in front of the
Yes.
abortion center.
Yes.
I guarantee you these police
Amen.
officers saw the contrast.
Amen.
And they should.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there are times you put in this article when to defy the officer.
Right.
There are times that we defy unlawful orders and things like that. We need to be very selective in this, and I don't think there's a scenario in which you guys that are serving on the sidewalk need to do this. I mean, typically speaking, my guidance to you is if an officer is really adamant, let's say, for example, the thing that I said earlier, you're handing out brochures and an officer says that you can't hand out brochures, you want to respectfully push back and say, well, according to the Constitution, I have a right, I have a freedom of speech to hand out brochures to people that want them. And so, I do have the ability to do this, officer. If he's just adamant about the fact or the idea that you're not supposed to do that, and it gets to the point where he's ready to arrest you, the best thing for you to do is to continue not to continue the activity, but to say, okay, you want a video, you want to log the incident, but we can talk to an attorney about that, because that basically that officer has violated your constitutional right to freedom of speech. We can file a lawsuit against the city or whatever.
Yeah.
But for the most part, you do want to abide, and we'll deal with it on the back end, right?
Yeah. I like what you said. I don't think this is in the article either about you want a video. If at all possible, if you are going to challenge, get it on record what the police officer said.
Yeah.
And so I will say I'm going to videotape you because I do need this.
Yeah.
Because I want to be clear on what you're saying.
Yeah.
And then respectfully do so. They don't love it. At least when I've done it, they don't like that, but I have done that before.
Yeah. Yeah. And also remember, many of these police officers, if not all of them, have a body cam, right? So they're recording the incident as well.
Right.
So don't forget that, because if that ultimately does go to court and the body cam footage shows you being respectful, but also the police officer maybe being belligerent or whatever, they can show a good contrast there. Because listen, for the most part, police officers, they are model citizens, great people that we should respect.
Right.
But there are some bad police officers. But we always want to come with the assumption, unless given a compelling reason otherwise to believe, we always want to come with the assumption that this officer has the best for you and for society in mind. Right? We always want to come with that assumption and treat them as such. And even if they don't have the best in mind, we still need to be respectful. And I think that's probably the biggest takeaway from this. In any interactions with the police, you need to be as respectful as possible and abide by their orders. And if they do tell you the things you shouldn't be doing that are constitutional, you can push back a little bit. But at the end of the day, if they say, no, I'm going to arrest you if you don't stop, then you need to stop. And then you can reach out to me. We'll talk about it, talk through how to get an attorney on this thing. Yeah. But hopefully that was equipping for you guys on how to deal with the police. Maybe there's some more in-depth questions you guys might have. You can reach out to me, Daniel@lovelife.org. I'd love to talk with you through whatever struggles you might be having along this line. Can't answer every question. I don't know all the laws in every city. I think a really important thing for you guys to do as homework is to dig into what the laws are in your city. And so a couple of things before we wrap up is dig into what the handbill or leafleting laws are. You can just Google search it. Dig into what the sign laws are for First Amendment activities. So these are just some keywords that you can search. You can search demonstration, what the demonstration laws are, sound ordinances, amplified sound ordinances. Again, these are keywords that you can search on Google. Search whatever your city is, and then sound ordinance, whatever your city is, leafleting laws, or handbills, another keyword that they use. Maybe even going to the police station, like I mentioned, and asking them what are the laws and things that I can do without having any issues with the police are, and that can go a long way.
Sometimes they are, I have found they are not as well informed about some of the things we can and can't do constitutionally than we are.
Yeah.
So just be aware of that. It helps for you to know yourself. Yeah. And then I think it is a good suggestion, though, to go and find out what they think. Yeah. Because then you can have a discussion in a less volatile place.
Yeah, absolutely. So, we hope this was a blessing to you guys. I hope this equipped you guys. Again, you can reach out to me, Daniel@lovelife.org. You can reach out to her, Vicky, with a Y, at lovelife.org. We'd love to hear from you for future episode suggestions. We'd love also for you guys to leave us a review on whatever podcast service that you use. We'd love to hear what you guys think of this. And until next time, God bless.
God bless you all.
Give me an outlet for love. Give me an outlet for gratitude. I know it will cost me my life, but nothing's too precious since I met you.